welcome to my channel. This is going to be my first real edited video, and trying to make it look not as shaky with the cell phone kind of a deal. Anyhow, I'm going to go with the Terminator X install on my 66 Ford Mustang. This video is going to show you all the basics. I'm going to show you where I mounted the computer. I'm going to rip out the old A9P Ford computer and the Ford harness, which is a 92 harness. That's gone. And I'm going to show you all the basics. I'm going to show you the idle air control motor settings inside the computer. And basically everything that I needed to do to get it fired up and started. I'm not going to go through any specific tuning. There's a lot of videos on that, and I'm still learning that myself. So follow through on this video to get a basic idea of what you're going to need to do to get a Holley Terminator X system into your vintage Ford. And on a separate note, my next upcoming video is going to be a Ford Contour fan install on a 67 Mustang big block radiator into the 66 Mustang using the Holley Terminator X software as the fan controller for it. That's the next video, so come back for that probably in a couple weeks. And stay tuned, here it comes. I think my package is here. I'm really excited. It's actually my birthday. That was coincidence that it arrived today. I didn't intend to order it and plan it that way, but here it is. And unless it's a box of flowers, which would be very sad, I'm going to open this up. It should be my Holley Terminator X. Yes, indeed it is. There we go. Receipt. Ordered it from Mid Coast Performance. Nice guys out there. All right. There's the kit, the part number. It's the foxbody Holley stuff. All right. Woohoo! Wires! Lots of wires. At least they look better than any kind of wires I could have made on my own. Holy moly. This is obviously the main harness. Here's a relay. I haven't looked over the wiring schematics. Must be the EEC relay. Oh, look, everything is nicely labeled. Idle air control motor. Here's our signals for the fuel pump. These are the inputs that I'm going to need a wire. That's it. Just 3 or 4 from my understanding. Switch 12 volt. 12, and this is going out to the fuel pump. And a ground. Okay. This is another harness. A lot of these, I think, are going to be the foxbody specific ones. Indeed. Like that is obviously going to go to my Ford distributor. And these are, that's fuel injector. Fuel injector harness. Singular O2 system. ACT sensor. ECT sensor. Coolant temperature. Pilot bearing? I don't know what that is, but I guess we'll get to that part. Alright, anyway, you guys get the idea. Lots of good... Oh, here's the goodie, the fun thing. It's a little small. But it'll work. That is the little cutie computer screen that comes with it. Oh, so cute! Can I hit a widescreen? I wonder if I can hook a tablet up to it. Anyway, alright, so let's see what this other stuff is here. Boost again. Alright, let's see what we got here. Oh, the computer! Holley EFI, and that would be my phone ringing downstairs. That's annoying. That's just a bracket for it. Alright. Really, it doesn't seem that bad. I can't wait to get into it. Alright, this is my 66 Mustang. I've had it for a decade. I built the entire thing on almost a completely non-existent budget. This here with the fuel injected 92 motor is just to show what can be done if you do all the labor yourself and pick up used parts. Unfortunately, I've got some codes that just can't clear out, and I'm looking for a more modern system and I also plan on going with a supercharger setup in the future. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna set the timing to 10 degrees before top dead center is what was suggested online. Then I'm gonna shut it off, pull the upper intake out, and then I'll show you and introduce you to all of the system that I've added before I deconstruct and add the Holley stuff in. This is how it sits and runs right now with the 92 computer and harness. It's an A9P EEC4 computer. Okay, here's my current combination. If you don't want to hear about the stock setup, then just skip forward another minute or two. I'll try to briefly go over this. I used the complete 92 engine, and I guess you could say trans too. A9P computer. And the nice thing about the 92, 93 harness is it has a built-in fuel pump relay versus the one that goes under the seat on the earlier cars. You can see the fuel pump relay right there. So it made it more convenient to wire up this harness. Now, I'm using the Ford Explorer fuel rails because they exit in the back. The foxbody exits right here, and then you have to run lines to the front of your motor. However, back here, it allows me to even use the Explorer drop lines, you can see here, and then the one below it, and then go down and follow the route on the inside of the tunnel along the original line. Excuse me. And that made it easy running along the inside of the tunnel, because then I could use the old metal fuel line as the return, and I used an eBay stainless braided fuel injection hose kit with AN fittings for the new high pressure, and I did use some fuel injection clamps too. That's the whole system. The gas tank in the back is very simple. It's a Spectra, and it drops right in. It looks exactly like the original, but it's got a built-in fuel pump that's sitting inside of a bowl. I've heard it's a 255. I can't verify that. It's just over $300 though, so it's a good price. But there's my computer. Usually I've got it tucked up under the dash. Actually rested on top of the heater box. My heater doesn't work, so there's no risk of heat there. And it's an A9P. And I routed it on the 66. They've got a hole right there in the back of the firewall. It's perfect shape already from the factory, so I just sent it there. I did have to extend a couple of wires. I had to extend the one for the distributor and the other one for the mass air harness, which is right here. So, but that's the original 92 harness, and it's all going to come out now, and then we can start putting the new one in. Okay. The old harness is out. I labeled everything. Don't know if I'm going to hold on to this one for a rainy day. It's going to have to be a real rainy day. Or I might just sell it. But that would really make it easy for anybody with an older car to do this again. Alright, no harnesses in my engine bay. I wanted to show you the hole just a little bit better. And that's exactly where I'm going to put the Holley harness through. Okay, so the long one is obviously the main harness. Okay, then the next one, that would be your main battery power harness, followed by the fuel injector harness. That is additional power, additional sources, I should say, like if you're running an electric fan. Obviously the O2 sensor. And this is the distributor, and this little guy is a wideband O2 sensor adapter. Of course, you have your ACT and your ECT coolant. I haven't figured that out yet. Okay, here it is. It's all plugged into each other. I didn't do the additional outputs yet. Fuel injector harness, coil, sorry, that's the distributor, and here's the rest of it: idle air control motor, all the little stuff. And these are the outputs, like if you're going to use a box like MSD 6AL or a crane box, you're going to use the white output. Okay, wanted to show you a few things before I connect this. this extra wire for the fuel pressure sensor. I have not installed that. It'll go in the Schrader valve. Okay. Then you have what used to be called the ECT on a Fox body is now called the CTS, coolant temperature sensor. This sensor comes with a kit. I installed it. Okay. Then there's another wire that's connected to the CTS wire. That's going to be for your oil pressure. And that's another sensor that does not come in the kit. It'll go down on the side of the block. Okay. The old ACT temperature, air charge temperature, is now called the MAT. All right, it comes with that sensor. It plugs in. Other than that, the fuel injector wires plug in really nicely. You're gonna have an extra map wire. Don't let it confuse you. You don't need to use it. The computer has a built-in map, and you just run a vacuum line inside. The other two wires here are your TPS. That's gonna go to the throttle position sensor on the top of the intake, and then the other one is the IAC. So idle air control motor. Other than that, we're pretty much ready to go ahead and put the upper intake back on and connect the rest of the sensors. So this is going pretty quickly. Okay, this part gets interesting. This is computer mounting. This is completely up to you and what you want to do. This is a Fox body kit. It goes under the seat on a Fox body. There's no room to put it under the seat on a vintage Mustang. I think it's because the floor pan is recessed on a Fox body and it is not on a 66 Mustang. So scratch that idea. It's not going under the seat. Maybe if you are more creative than me, go for it. So I scratched my head for quite a long time and I found what I think was the perfect solution. Using the existing Fox body seat bracket too, I was able to make this pretty much squeeze right in there without modifying it. And I'll show you from underneath in a minute. There it is sitting right there. I've got the excess slack on the harness coiled up, resting on top. I bolted it into the existing parts on the car. I haven't drilled or modified anything. Everything fits. The levers work. I simply used an existing hole on the top of the ashtray and put a bolt right through it. Okay, and I just cut a plate. It was about 8 inches long by 3.5 inches wide and laid it right on top of the ashtray. Ashtray is still going to function perfectly. I used an existing hole in the bracket and bolted it. I got a little bit of spacer right under here, right, and it is secure. I mean, it is very secure. So I'll show you from underneath what I've done. Oy. Underneath, I just used the Fox body seat bracket. Let's see if I can get a panned out version, or you know what I'm saying. All right, in the corner, I mounted it to an existing hole, an existing part of the body. Right, that went right in. On here, on the top, I just rested it between the levers for the cable, and it does not interfere. I bolted it on this side right here. It is very secure. Very secure. So I'm happy enough with that. I got a rat's nest of wiring under here I got to work out next. So on the wiring end, you can run the green wire straight to the fuel pump. If your fuel pump runs 15 amps or less. Most fuel pumps do, unless you're making really big horsepower. Then you'll want to run this into a separate relay. But if you're running anything like a 255 and down, my research is telling me you're only going to pull 6 to 10 amps out of this anyhow, so it's fine. This goes to a chassis ground. I'm just going to screw it to a ground on the dash. 12 volt switch. That's 12 volt key on and crank. You need to tap it out of here, out of the ignition. And that's the best place on these cars. If you pull the instrument cluster out, you'll see the harness that goes into here. The wire that turns into a pink wire about that far back behind the ignition switch, that's the one you want to tap into. I just cut and spliced in a wire, and I get my key on and crank. Now, in my situation, I went a bit further. You're going to have to excuse the rat's nest. This is years old, and I'm going to clean this up before I'm done. I put the ignition into its own relay, You can't see it from here, but it's down there in the rat's nest. And the relay into another fuse box. What that gave me was a 6-point slot to run Keon accessory items. You know, electric fan, Ford 3G alternator, radio, anything that needs a Keon power. I'm going to tap it right out of that box. That's what I did. You don't have to. This particular computer, it runs its own relay for the computer. So you can technically just tap right off of the key switch and go straight into the red wire right here. And that will be sufficient to power up your key on part of the computer process. This is the original Ford throttle position sensor connector. I cut it out of the harness. The reason being is the kit wants you to put this on the end of the TPS, but once you do that, you can't service the TPS if it goes bad without cutting it off again. So in order to avoid that, I cut a section out of an extra harness that I had, and I'm going to go ahead and weather pack. They come with the weather pack connectors, and I'm going to do that. If you need to find out how to do that, there's a couple videos on YouTube. I'm just learning myself. I did the first one with just a pair of needle nose pliers, and it came out pretty good. The connector is nice and tight without soldering it even. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll show it to you connected later. All right, through the wonderful ability to edit, I realized I needed to redo a section. The map connection goes straight to vacuum. You see the white tube? That's a vacuum line just going to the upper intake. It just connects into that blue tube right here. See, it's just a connector connecting it. Anyway, that's the connector. It goes into the blue tube. And that's a 1-bar map sensor. It'll work fine for most naturally aspirated situations. If you're running turbo supercharger, you might want to run a different map sensor, and that's where the green plug under the hood comes in to play. Couple of different wizards. TPS auto set. Hit that. Key on. Yes. Start. You don't need to see it, but my right foot is slowly going down on the throttle pedal. Okay, there you go, all the way up. Fairly slowly, twice to the floor. Back up again. This is how the computer learns your throttle position sensor. Next, bam, we're good. Okay, so after you do that, go back into wizards. I'm not going to complete this one out. I've already got a tune on here, but I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so multi-port fuel injection, that's what you want for the Ford 5.0 style, like what we're dealing with here. Okay, go all the way down to the bottom right here, 79 to 93 Mustang. Okay, obviously it's 8 cylinders. The firing order, if you run an HO motor like what did I have, like 82 and up, then you're going to want that, or even a 351 Windsor. Okay, the 1546378, that's the original stuff, the 289, etc. Next, this just basically, it's the same thing. Cubic inches or liters. I like the cubic inches. It's more precise. Like if I put a 5 liter in there, it tells me I've got a 305, right? Because that's what a 5.0 actually is. So I just go cubic inches. And it's just a reference to simply tell it how big your motor is, right? You can get it pretty close and then dial it in.
I think it died.
No, it's still recording. The screen
sorry.
just dims. Right, dial it in to a 302. There is a stylus that comes with this thing. 302, bam, there it is. Idle speed, 650 to 850, depending on if you get a cam or whatever. So we'll just pick a number there. Perfect. Okay. Here's where I spoke with Holley. I'm just running a B303 cam, basically small cam. If you're running a B cam, a TFS1 cam, whatever, they told me to choose the first option. I'm not a cam expert, but I did choose the first option. These are for much bigger camshafts. stay at the screen. Thanks. So anyway, first option for a stock or a smallish cam, right? Ignition type, we're going to choose the Ford TFI style. All right, that's the 87 to 93 ignition style. All right. Fuel pressure 5.0 Mustang, foxbody, 43 pounds. Okay, injectors, original Ford is what I'm running. Large yellow body, 19, that's all I'm running with GT40 heads. They work perfect. Not yet. No power adder. Next. Okay, map sensor, internal 1 bar. There it is. You have other choices here if you're going to add sensors, but I am not. Maybe eventually when I get that supercharger, right? Okay. That's it. You would hit start. It would upload it to the computer. Not going to do that because I already have a configuration file that's already learned about a day's worth of driving. I don't want to start over and rewrite that. But if you hit start, it'll pass a message. It'll say uploaded, cycle the key. So we would pretend that we're cycling the key after we did hit upload. You hear the pump, and basically it's ready to start. And that's it as far as the configuration on here. But before you start it, you're going to need to go into the laptop mode to select your idle air control motor settings. Otherwise, you'll have a hell of a time trying to start it and get it to idle. Thanks. Kill it. Okay, I'm going to show you some programming that has to be done on the laptop, unfortunately, where your idle air control motor will never work. And you just cannot do this on the handheld. So that means you have to buy the expensive cable that plugs into the laptop and to the CAN port on the harness. Anyhow, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and go to idle right here. All right, from there, you got to go here. This is specifically for a Ford idle air control motor setup. Okay, and then choose PWM for pulse width modulation. Now the frequency, I've got 300 and it's working fine. I heard that Ford did 300 from the factory. Holley is saying 600, and I'm hearing that there's a wide range of acceptability there. So far mine is working fine with 300. So from there, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and go over to pin map. Okay, and then this is important. You're going to go to view outputs, and then you're going to see after you change it over on the other setting, the IAC PWM, and you're going to simply drag and drop it right there into the 4th slot. Okay, now hit done. Now when you're done with that, hit the recirculate icon right there, and you're going to pop up a screen. Mine's not connected, and on the right, it's just on the right bottom tab, it's going to have an option to upload it to the computer and save the configuration file to your Holley. And that's it. Once that's done, recycle the key and your idle air control motor will start working. Okay, I'm very pleased with how this came out. Everything looks nice and neat. I'm mostly done tucking the wires. See some back there. Anyway, came out really good. Cleaned up the engine bay quite a bit. Got opening back there. I think it's only on 66. I'm going to cut the original Ford rubber bushing and just put it back into the firewall. That's what it suggests to do in the instructions. The idle air control motor settings were kind of a bad deal. It took me a while to figure that out, but I've included it in the video. And this is kind of a brief overview here. Also worth considering, the manifold air temperature sensor is in the intake manifold where Ford put it. This doesn't like it there because the manifold heats up too hot, and I verified that with a laser thermometer. So I'm going to relocate that manifold air temperature sensor, and I'm going to put that into the intake tube before the throttle body, so it'll read more realistic of the air it's pulling in. But this thing is great. It shows everything. You can see your throttle on the upper right hand corner as you step on the gas. But air fuel ratio, there's all kinds of different gauges on this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing you how to tune and dial this in, because that's what there's a lot of videos online. I do not have my oil pressure and fuel sensors in, so that's why those are flashing like that. really pleased with this setup. Just wanted to put this out there before I get a bunch of comments. Yes, this is a speed density setup. I've got the old mass air meter in there simply as a means to connect this air filter I have now. I'm going to redo that whole elbow and filter setup. So for now, I just put that in there as a holder for the filter. Thanks for following along on my wonderful Terminator X installation video in my 66 Mustang. I hope you had as good a time as I did doing this. In all reality, this was a great installation. So far, everything seems to be great, other than the fact that I sent the fan into the radiator the day after I got it running. Whatever. Anyhow, I would definitely do it again. Basically, the big thing is, do you need the 937F kit for foxbody or the more generic Ford kit? That's up to you. I did use the mounting bracket that traditionally goes under the seat on the foxbody. I used it up inside the dash and I was able to make it work. But there's also other things I might have changed if I could do it differently. I want to run a GM style idle air control motor, and the 937F kit comes with the idle air control motor connector for the Ford style. And so it's a little bit of a pain to swap over to the better GM style idle air control motor once you've already got the Ford connector. So do a little bit of research on your own if you want to run the GM style idle air control motor because it's a better setup, then you might not want the 937F kit. Other than that, I'm really happy with how everything went, and so far my Ford idle air control motor setup is working. It's just a very old kind of design. Thanks again, guys, and make sure you come back for my electric fan install. Thanks.